I think that we have a lot of opportunity to provide high quality research like the Hinckley Institute does, but on like water, natural resources, public lands, some really specific Washington County items. And the other thing that I'm so passionate about that I hope that we can do more of is internships.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning to the 435 podcast. I had a great guest today, local girl, Courtney Brinkerhoff Sinagra. Thank you for joining me. She's with the Washington County Prosecutors Office. She's also with the Institute of Politics at Utah Tech University. You might not know, the program started in 2019 with the goal, and what we talked about today, the goal was to drive civic engagement, both from the university students, but also within the local community. It's something that we're missing here, and with COVID, it really delayed some things. She's now the chairwoman, and we had a great conversation about how to get civic engagement, but also how to get students involved in taking advantage of the internship program at the state level, at the federal level. Get out the vote. November 21st is right around the corner. Get your ballots in the mail or go drop them off day of and do your part to get your voice be heard. It's Type 1 Diabetes Awareness Month. It's Type 2 as well, Diabetes Awareness Month as a whole. So I'm raising money for it, just like the other episodes this month. The link is in the show notes. So I'm raising $10,000 for diabetes awareness. I hope you find it in your heart to donate to the local kids here in Washington County for the Diabetic Youth Association. So thank you again for enjoy the episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the things. Enjoy, guys. We'll see you out there.
Hey, everyone. The St. George election this year is incredibly important. Go to votestg.com to see who's running and what they stand for, or visit us at our voter booth at Digby's Market, Red Rock Bicycles, or down in the park.
There was a quote from one of the guests the other day who said, if you're not on the menu, if you're not, what did he say?
If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
That's ingenious.
If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
I love that. I'm going to steal that quote.
It was Kurt Ivey.
Washington City Council
said that. And I was like, that's very interesting. It's a very telling statement. It can be taken a lot of different ways. In the context too, if it was fitting, but I couldn't help but think in governmental context, I'm just not quite sure if I would have used it. Right?
No, I love it.
You love it. Tell me.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Because, say the quote again.
If
you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. Yeah, if you're not involved, if you're not forcing your way to the table and getting involved, then the causes that you care about, the things that you care about in your life,
the things you're going to be shopped for, I guess, right? You're going to be decided upon, like, hey, what am I going to choose? Who's
going to be there to voice those concerns? Yeah. If you're not involved, and then you just have to deal with the effects and complain about them, I guess. So I love that quote.
If you just keep it going, and the ultimate outcome of dining is that you consume the things that you're deciding upon. So is government consuming the humans that aren't at the table? Does that make sense? Where you like get through as like, is the government's role to be consuming, delighting in the topic at hand? I don't know. It's good on its surface, right?
Right.
But then you run it all the way to the end.
I think you're thinking too hard.
I'm just keeping the analogy going. You just keep the analogy going.
Okay, so you're taking it to like a deeper level.
A deeper level
of
I
eating.
Don't know. I thought it was very good. I
think the point is be involved.
Get involved. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting. Yeah. It also depends on the perspective of government, and you being somebody that's been heavily involved in government since you've been an adult, right?
Yes. Well, since high school, really.
So since high school, yeah. So like an adult.
Yeah.
I don't know where to decide.
I mean, how involved in government can you be when you're not an adult?
Yeah. So like your working career so far, you've always been involved in government. So potentially you're too close to it. But there's a lot of people that might be listening to politicians say something like that and look at that analogy from a lens of like, well, what do you really mean by that?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
I could take the analogy too far. Maybe I'm thinking about the analogy too far.
Yeah.
But there's some part of me that is always looking at the government in this lens of with that they're skeptical that they're altruistic in their intent. Right? Like government is not necessarily set out to serve the people. They view government as a grift. I literally had a full next door commentary interaction with a self-described hippie, I guess, right? She called just another politician with their typical grift, right? Like their typical sales pitch to justify the role that they play in society. Yeah. And she has no faith in government to solve any problems, right? And I think there's a massive amount of people that believe that same thing. So to hear politicians use that analogy, I can see how it doesn't necessarily play well to all parties, right?
Right. I agree. Yes. And I respect those people that are skeptical of government. And I'm skeptical of government. And I've worked in government for years.
Yeah.
And I always think of Ronald Reagan. Like the worst thing that you can hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Because, yeah, the government shouldn't be the solution to our problems. But we have government, and it's better that they're solving problems or trying to help solve problems or staying out of the way than making more. And so I think what the analogy is, if you're at a restaurant, you're looking at the menu, someone is there at the table with you, they can say, oh, don't order that because it tastes bad. Or in the political world, this is going to be the ramification. Then that's what the analogy is getting at.
Yeah. I completely agree, because it is the truth of the matter where for everything, somebody told me once, for everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. And when it comes to the case of government, right, there's a lot of people that go to the government, right, with the perspective of, well, the government will solve this. Mm-hmm. Or somebody should, so it should probably be the government, right? Like, because in absence of like a clear organization that exists already to solve the problem, like if there isn't one, then it seems like the default always ends up being like, well, the government, because isn't that like just the community body of decision makers, right? Like the public, right? So I think when you have a belief in something, when you have things that you should be that you want to advocate for, if you're not sitting at the table, you're not as likely to get the yes. You're probably going to be a no because you're not there to advocate for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully there's somebody sitting at the table to do that.
Kurt Ivey's going to love that his little soundbite has just gotten like really delved into so deeply.
I don't think he'll listen to this.
He might.
Once
he finds out we're talking about him, yeah.
Yeah, somebody should tag him. Ben Martinson, if you're listening, which we thought you were going to be here today. Right. We thought Ben was going to be here. He couldn't make it, had a work conflict. And he's running a campaign all the way to the finish line. We're 7 days out from the Utah elections, November 21st. That's why I really wanted to have you on, was to help me interview at least one of the Washington City Council members, because you live in Washington City, right? I do live
in Washington City. So unfortunately for those that are listening, they just give me...
But there's more to Sinagra. That's how you say your last name?
It's actually Sinagra.
Sinagra.
Yeah.
Courtney Sinagra.
Yes.
And you are, what's your title position? If somebody's listening, they're like, who is Robert talking to today?
Right.
Like, who are
well,
you?
most people actually know me as Courtney Brinkerhoff, because
that's right.
That is my maiden name. And I am a prosecuting attorney for Washington County.
Okay. Was there any good cases today?
So court is tomorrow. So I've been prepping my cases all day today. There's always good cases. There's always drama, and
even in little
St. George, Washington County, yeah. And it's good. I think, kind of going back to our little discussion about government and if they should be solving problems or what is their role. I think government should solve a lot of the problems, or try to. And I think at the local level, I think we have really good government here in Washington County. I've lived a lot of other places, and I think that our elected officials really do comparatively do a good job. So I like working at Washington County Attorney's Office. I think we're pretty efficient and fair in trying to find the appropriate solutions. We can't be having people commit crimes in our community, but we do have a lot of resources, mental health treatment, drug court, things like that to hopefully get the problem stopped, help people change their lives rather than just punishing them.
Yeah. So you were born and raised in St. George?
I am a native. So
you're a native. Did you ever think that you would grow up and then become like an attorney here in St. George? Or did you imagine your life where you're like, I'm going to go away to school and then get a big fancy job in like New York or something like that?
Right.
I was thinking the movies or the show Suits.
I love Suits.
Suits, it's a great show.
Yes, it is a great show.
Smart people wrote that show. The writers for that show were smart. I could tell.
Yeah, but sometimes they definitely misrepresent the law.
Oh, easy. Yeah. Well,
yeah, but all shows do that.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, but it's fun. I really like Suits. And I think I wouldn't do New York, but I would live in Washington, D.C. for sure. I know everyone's like, oh, the swamp. But I lived out there.
I think Trump's the first person. No, I guess.
I think it's caught on.
I think technically
it is.
It was a swamp, right? Like the Potomac, it was like
it's
just a swampy mess. I think John Adams in his biography, he talks about like being really annoyed that they built it there because he was the first one to take occupancy at the White House.
Right.
And he was so mad that he had to. He was fighting it tooth and nail. He didn't want to move there.
Wanted Boston.
I think he liked Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah, I think he liked it in Philadelphia.
He probably wouldn't like it nowadays, but
it is not aged well.
No.
But not a lot of big cities have aged well.
Right.
San Francisco's got much nicer though in the last couple of weeks. Way to
good.
go, Gavin Newsom. I mean, if it's true, it's true.
I have not been. That's one place I haven't been, but it is on my list to go.
My wife and I got married, and we did like a mini honeymoon to San Francisco, and it was awesome. It is such a cool city. This was 2014. Yeah, 2014, because it would have still been that same, because we went that weekend, because we got married in November, and we went up to San Francisco and it was beautiful. And there was homeless. There was but it was typical of a city. I think San Diego at the time probably had equal as much homelessness as San Francisco did. But I've seen just videos of over the last couple of years and it's just insane.
Really? Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah.
I have friends up there. I've heard some horror stories. So
yeah.
But yeah, I love St. George. I love Washington County. I, in high school, participated in this program called Leadership Academy. It's actually now Dixie Leadership Academy, which is the high school version of Dixie Leadership Dixie, which I've also graduated from that. Yes.
Right.
And the whole kind of premise of Dixie Leadership Academy is let's mentor our young people here and encourage them to go out in the world, get experience, but then come back, live here in Washington County, contribute, and help us build the community up. So,
man, and you're a poster child.
I am the poster child. Yes, they always have me come to their little recruitment events.
Do they really? That's
they do.
Awesome.
So that's what I did, and my family's here, and I just can't think of a better place to live. But I do like the big city, and I've had my fun times living in a variety of places. But happy to be here.
So, looking at the election so far, with local elections, what's your hot take? What's something that's jumped out to you as you've kind of watched it unfold in any city? I don't think necessarily Washington City. We don't have to just talk about Washington City.
I'll tell you that I'm a St. George girl. Like, I was always very proud I lived in St. George.
Yeah.
I was Miss St. George.
Were you a flyer?
I was a panther. So.
Oh, okay, all right.
So.
Okay, so you were Miss St. George.
I was.
Okay.
My claim to fame.
So what's the hot take?
I'm so glad I don't live in St. George.
Really?
Well, just the city council race has been so divisive and
So you yeah.
So I'm just like watching that like, okay, I'm so glad I'm in Washington City. It's been very chill over there.
Yeah.
And
it seems to have been definitely less contentious.
Yes.
Why do you think it has been?
The city council race?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it's good. I think it's important that people are paying attention. They're so passionate about the race. They're passionate about their city. So why has it been so contentious?
So yeah,
The growth, I think 2020 kind of lit a fire in the political world that's still going, of just people being very concerned about what's going on in government. What were you going to say?
No, keep going. Yeah.
No,
I think you're right.
Your thoughts.
I think you're right, though. I think 2020, I think COVID ignited a fire in all. I hate using the word social network just because the connotation is like social media. I don't want people to like misunderstand what I'm saying, but like actual face-to-face community type networks, organizations that had functionally their purpose was to build relationships. COVID ignited all of them on fire. Yeah, all at once. And so then, because it lasted the amount of time that it lasted, that all of those social, those constructs, all the discourse progress that you could have made in that timeline, there's this blip. It's so stupid that it's Infinity War. Like, it's like this blip that goes in where, when the dust settles and everybody looks around, everybody's in a different location, facing a different direction, and completely forgotten what they were talking about. Right. And they're like, okay, well, let's just get back to normal. And then so they try to go back to normal, but they're like, why is this not working? So people are trying to I think a lot of people are trying to force things to fit in the way that it used to be. And then there's this whole group of people that are like, no, I think we should just do everything different. Let's just do like me, because I'm okay to do something different every single day. Like, if somebody asked me, do you have a routine? I could confidently say my routine is to not ever have a consistent routine. Like, there's a couple of things that stick. It's the no plan. Yeah. It's the no plan. It for whatever reason, I have a hard time just consistently being repetitive. Like, if somebody asked me, this was a problem when I was playing the saxophone when I was a kid, is keeping a tempo. I could keep a tempo, and you could ask me to play a tempo, and I could start it in that. But for whatever reason, like a few bars in, it starts to just get all jacked up, and I can't keep it consistent. There's no go back to tenacity. We were talking about tenacity today. For whatever reason, I want to be like, let's change it up now. I'm done doing that. So there's something. I probably should change that. I should probably see a psychiatrist or something about that. Baby, no. You think that's normal? But I think society, there's probably a bunch of people like me, because what I've witnessed in these social networks is a lot of people are completely willing to change everything we've done, relook at things from a completely different angle. And now there's this battle like between the ones that are like, no, we want it the way it used to be. And these people are like, no, it needs to change. Right. And now there's just like this like emotional charge that's like running around. I don't know. That's mine.
And who's right?
Nobody's right.
Right. This is why I'm glad I don't have to decide.
I know.
I'll just be over in Washington
Hopefully
City.
These guys in this room, we're looking at,
this
if you're just listening,
picture.
This is the Utah State Legislature, right?
No, this is actually, you can see, I believe,
Bush?
President Obama.
Oh, that is Obama.
He's giving the State of the Union, and there's Joe Biden and John Boehner behind him.
Okay, so this is
the House of Representatives.
This is just the whole House.
Yeah, this is the State of the Union address. But it's a nice picture for our homepage. This is the Institute of Politics at Utah Tech University.
There's 435 members of Congress.
Look at you.
The
435.
435 podcast. Total coincidence. That's our area code as for phone number, which is where I came up with it. And then it was like the political angle. And I had somebody be like, is it because there's 435 members of Congress? And I looked down and was like, yes. And I immediately said no. I was like, I had no idea there was 435 members of Congress. But it was, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty fitting.
That is fitting.
But they're the representatives that are supposed to have the leadership to decide how we're supposed to be doing these things, right? Like these organizational constructs within society, right? Maybe?
I mean, I don't think that the U.S. House of Representatives is supposed to be telling us how to do our local elections. Is that what you're meaning?
I think they're supposed to be leading in a very I would say they are supposed to be setting an example for what we should be doing. They are an example of what we should be doing at the local level. I would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're a bad example right now. Maybe they should
Horrible example.
look at what we're doing at the local level. Like I said, I think Washington County on the whole is doing a good job.
Yeah. And I think most, like, when I look at polls, and this is even going back to, for years and years, I think typically people are pretty confident in their local, how their local politicians are operating, and more skeptical as it gets further away from their neighborhood, right? Like,
Right.
when it goes to the state level, it's we have a little bit less trust, but more trust than, let's say, Arizona or like the neighboring states, right? And then you go all the way to Washington, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we don't think any of them are representing us, right?
Right.
But for the most part, people believe in the locals, but it's the least engaged. Like,
Yeah,
it's where
like
we get the least engagement.
The voter turnout is super low.
It's super low.
Yes.
I was trying to get the numbers because we're a week out. I was trying to get the numbers of how many people have voted so far. I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure. And there'll be a significant increase this year, but I think 2020 was like 16% or something. Or not 2020, but the last election. What year would have that been?
Well, I think in the presidential
2021.
election, I think we had a good turnout.
Yeah. I'm
But
just
the
meaning
municipals-
the municipal
yeah, the
races. So
municipal
they're in
races.
the odd years. So 2021, it was low. It's always low.
It was low, like
Yeah.
20% or less. And that sucks. But
and it's lowest amongst the young people, which is part of the Utah Tech University Institute of Politics mission, which I am. And I know we're going to get to this, but just putting a
this
plug
is
in
perfect.
early.
This is the podcast bounces around, and this is a perfect flow.
Okay.
We're rolling. This is perfect segue.
I'm the chairwoman of the board of advisors for the Institute of Politics at Utah Tech University. So
Have you made an acronym for that yet?
IOP.
You did.
I didn't make it.
Somebody did.
Somebody did.
Acronym people. Ugh.
Yeah.
Elon Musk banned acronyms. You're not allowed to use acronyms if you work for any of his organizations. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah.
Why?
It's not clear communication.
It's not.
It's
I know.
not.
I was in the military, so I know all about the acronyms.
That's all they do. You were in the military
I
too?
was,
I didn't know
yes.
that. Okay,
Now you know.
sidebar.
Okay.
What'd you do in the military? Give me the Cliff Notes version.
I was a really awesome paper pusher for.
Okay.
No, I was a human resources sergeant
Okay.
for the field artillery.
Okay.
So I was not myself a badass, but I was with the badasses. So.
Field artillery, so Army.
Army, yes. Utah Army National Guard.
Okay. And you joined
I joined in 2014 and I just got out in 2022. So 8 years.
8 years. Way to go.
Thank you.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you.
What inspired you to do that? Does that come out of like Dixie Leadership Academy? And like, is that kind of...
I did not think I was going to be in the Army, no.
Okay.
But I actually was working in Washington, D.C. for Senator Orrin Hatch.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working on military-related legislation. And I just got to go. I was fortunate. I had a really good mentor, Doug Dines, who was the National Security Advisor. He was just like, hey, do you want to go to the Pentagon? So I was like, yeah, I want to go to the Pentagon. And then we're meeting with like 4- and 5-star generals talking about this military legislation. And and that happened a couple of times. And I just thought, I should really look into the military here. I was going to do the Air Force because...
Would have been a better choice.
Yeah, I know. Because I knew I wanted to go to law school. I knew it was expensive. And I think just to like have that opportunity to serve. So I was like, okay, maybe I should look into this. Air Force, you get to go to cool places. It's much more cush than the Army. It's the chair force, as we like to say.
That is what they call it.
That is what they call it, yes. But then I came back to Southern Utah, to Cedar City, where it's all artillery. And fortunately or unfortunately for me, I'm not sure, had some friends that were recruiters for the Utah National Guard, for the artillery. And so that is how I instead went into the Army. And you know what? No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets.
You had really comfortable beds in basic.
Oh, no. I mean, I told no one I was going. I told no one. I like literally ghosted my whole life when I enlisted.
Why?
Because I was scared I was going to fail out.
That was your concern?
Yeah. I was like worried about, one, the push-ups, because clearly my upper body strength is just on. And I was worried about being yelled at by the drill sergeants and laughing, because I tend to laugh when people yell at me. So I was concerned about that. But I did not fail out
And
of
it
boot
is a
camp.
new age.
It is a new age. Well, no. Not when I went.
It's a new age.
No, it was before you could like have cell phones and such. This was back in the day.
There's been a couple of revolutions here, but 2014 is definitely a new age of what the Army was.
I'm sorry, when did you go to boot camp?
I did not go to boot camp, but I have plenty of friends. I know plenty of drill sergeants. That my dad was a drill sergeant in the Army early on in his days, but that was
good.
Like you're going back. That's back into the 70s too, which completely different.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely, like the story. The story's there as well, but
yes.
like thinking of I'm glad it didn't turn out as bad as you imagined. I think there is a case there's a case to be made though for how like entertainment purposes, shows and society like views basic training versus like the new days of Army.
Oh, yeah.
When I was saying it was a new day, the new day wasn't necessarily that that was a derogatory bad thing. It was just that it's evolved. I think it psychology and understanding what a soldier, especially today's soldier, like what they need to be capable of, is they're willing to push them in the right ways and not necessarily have to push them in other ways that aren't helpful to the cause.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Did you come out with a greater sense of pride for? Things in general. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah,
Tell me
I loved it. I loved basic training. I didn't want to leave. I think most of the people in my company didn't want to leave because I think we had tough drill sergeants. My drill sergeants were mean.
Yeah.
Infantry men, and not all of the companies had such hard times. But I was really grateful that I did.
Yeah.
And made a lot of really awesome friends. My little platoon was like winning all the contests or all the challenges, and then I ended up graduating as it was called Soldier of the Cycle.
Oh, cool.
So it was number one out of 200 people. So that's pretty good for someone who didn't tell anyone that they were joining, that they were enlisting. So should have probably had more confidence in myself. But
you should have. But that was silent confidence.
It was
right?
silent confidence.
It wasn't. Outwardly, you're not out there to brag and say how confident you were, but you were.
Because then I would have had to do a lot more push-ups, and everyone would have hated me.
It's a. So I'm going to use my experience just going to a military school as a kid. As a kid, so we had like.
How old were you when you went?
I was 15.
And you chose to go.
So I chose to go to a military school, and so like the first week's called RAT week. So acronyms RAT. So
I was just going to ask that.
A recruit at training.
Okay.
A recruit at training. And tons of rules, and all student ran, so not a whole lot of adults just present. They just weren't around. I mean, there's a supervisory role from a distance, but it's like the students, they know what they're doing, and then we'll deal with correction if something drastic happens, right? Mm-hmm. Like they'll find out later and sweep up the mess, right?
Yeah.
So lots of being put in challenging positions to stretch your comfort zone, right? In all the different ways. And playing sports, you get a little bit of that, I think football is probably the best example, when you play football and you have to do a lot of hard stuff like early on in training season where you have a group of guys and you're getting pushed to the limit, like physically, and having to crash into each other. And there's a lot of things that you're just not normally comfortable with doing. Mm-hmm. I think has been probably the better, like a good analogy for people that have never been in the military. But the sense of like going through a really shitty thing, and then so it was 7 days of RAT week, which was like we had no electronics, no anything, no communication with the outside world. My parents lived 13 hours away. They lived in Salt Lake. This was Roswell, New Mexico. And then for 21 days, the only way you can communicate outside of school was through like a handwritten letter, right? That was it. We had nothing else still, right?
Right.
And this is pre, smartphones, right? So it was still flip phones, 2002. And so, I wasn't thinking of it now, like having somebody get pulled out of, this connected world into this, complete isolation. It's probably a little bit more dramatic now than it was then, but it was still really dramatic for me because I had never really been home, away from home for more than like 5 days at like a camp somewhere. So 21 days, no communication at all, except for through letter writing, which I think basic training, it's how many weeks is it?
It's 10 weeks.
But how many weeks is it before, like, when you're like cut off, you're not communicating with the outside world at all?
Was
it all 10 weeks?
Yeah, it was all 10 weeks.
All
yeah.
10 weeks, yeah. And
Yeah.
so like
I think I was there like reception for like 2 days just as everyone's arriving, and then I cut it off.
Yeah, 10 weeks. I think that was probably like, that's where you really build like that camaraderie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that first month is tough. Those first 3 weeks for me were tough.
Oh, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But I think it's so rewarding at the end, and that's why I disagree with a lot of the changes that they've made, because I think then when you have your cell phone every week or whatever, you just miss out on that.
Yeah.
That mental, emotional transformation that you go through.
And your ability to connect with the person that you're actually really going to have to rely on, because whether it's Tom or Sally or whoever in basic training, that uniform is going to stay the same. And so the person sitting in the uniform, you're going to have this connection to that person. You're like, I know this person has gone through this thing with me, and I know that person is going to change all the time. But now we get pushed into this actual military environment where we're going to need that person to show up in a specific way because we're reliant on that. You miss having that trust and confidence. So it'd be worrisome for me to see how that cohesion of core spirit.
Yeah. Esprit de corps.
Spirit de corps. Yeah, that's right. That's interesting. Total sidebar.
But a good sidebar.
But a pretty good sidebar. Institute of Politics, Utah Tech University.
Yes.
We have low voter turnout among young people,
right,
in general, but we have a brand new program at our D1 university right here in St. George.
Yes.
Which is I think a great starting point to engage the younger generation of whether it's student or whether it's just young family that's connected to the university at some capacity. I think it's a great opportunity because it started in 2019, right?
Yes.
So give me a little bit of what's the mission of the program in general, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, maybe we can pull up the mission statement. I think it's on
Is it there? Mal?
I should have had this mapped out, Mallory.
Let's go there. Events, internships.
No, it's
leadership.
I think that's going to take you back to the main. Well, maybe just where it says welcome. So yeah, the purpose is to serve the campus and community as a hub for civic engagement, student leadership, and public policy education and research. So I look at it.
Core mission right there is to inspire students to pursue careers in public service by providing them opportunities to connect with policymakers, politicians, activists, and academics. The Institute engages with UT students and faculty to promote political education and involvement on campus, ensures the university plays a more active role in Southern Utah's civic environment, and spotlights and addresses key policy issues unique to Utah and specifically Washington County, which is cool.
There you have it.
So, it's kind of it's a keystone. It's a connector of really what we kind of need. We kind of need like a connector of all these different institutions, policymakers, politicians, activists, and the academics, people that are actually, studying and teaching these things on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I had a group of people ask me that they wanted, they asked me to teach a class, and I couldn't promise I'd do a good enough job.
At the university?
No, just in general.
Okay.
To teach them about just the election process. Like, what does it mean? Like the different what is the governor versus the state legislature versus, what is a senator versus a congressman, like a House of Representatives member, right?
Uh-huh.
They just didn't.
All 435 of them.
They just legitimately had no understanding. Like to them, it's just like the government, right? It's just like this big old blob.
Yeah.
And we get a couple of classes in high school, and you, in a really short amount of time, if you're not paying attention, you could miss a whole lot of stuff, because there's not really a whole lot of requirement to, to build off this. So there's a lot of lack of education just in general. So.
And people want the education, right? They approached you for the education.
Yeah, like you sound like you know what you're talking about. It's like, I don't know if I should be teaching you all this stuff. I mean, I don't want to do anything wrong, but the need is there for sure, I think, at least in our community for sure.
Yeah. So that's a need that we're trying to fill the void on.
Yeah.
Kind of a dual thing where the community needs to have a forum of where we can host. For example, we just hosted the city council debate for St. George City on November 1st. And then on November 7th, we hosted all of the declared Republican candidates seeking one of Utah's Senate seat that's currently held by Mitt Romney. And on that same day, we hosted Senator Kathleen Reeby. She's a state senator, but she's seeking a congressional seat currently held by Chris Stewart. And then her opponent, Celeste Malloy, on the Republican side, seeking that same seat. So it was a doubleheader event, and invited the community to come out and listen to all of those candidates and become more informed about who's running for office.
Yeah.
So providing those opportunities to the community. And I'm open. We are open. Vince Brown is the director of the Institute of Politics. I chair the board. We have about 20 members on our board. And then we have a 6 or 7 student leadership group that, the students really do the heavy lifting, which is good.
Just in like organizing the different
Yeah, they
events
work
and
with
things like
Vince, and I can't say enough nice things about Vince, who is a professor at the university and does the Institute of Politics. But he gets the students, helps the students organize the events and gets them involved. So we want to have more events. We want to find out, let me know, Rob, if you hear other things of feedback from the community of what they desire. And I have a lot of people reach out to me too, but we want to do more.
that. I got a couple ideas.
I know you do. Let's hear. Do you want to tell me now?
You want to write them down?
Whenever. Whenever.
If I wanted to get engaged, somebody's listening to this. I'm sure there's somebody on TikTok.
Somebody better be listening to this.
Somebody on TikTok is like, this video is awesome. I'm going to listen to the whole thing. They're for sure not going to swipe up. No.
Yeah.
If they want to get involved, how do they get started? Like, is this the place where, like, if I'm just a community member and I don't know where to start in politics, I don't align with a specific political party, like where should they get involved?
Well, they should follow our Instagram for one.
Okay, Instagram, social media.
Yep, at Utah, UTAH Tech Politics, at Utah Tech Politics.
Okay.
That's where we'll be posting about our events. They can also follow me, the People's Court, with an A.
The People's Court? Mm-hmm. Hey, Mal, will you pull those up? Can you pull those up maybe on the tab? The People's Court is
That's my personal Instagram. But I post a lot about what we're doing.
The People's Court is brilliant.
Yeah, and it's...
Did you come up with that idea, or did you take this from somebody else? I put you on blast right there.
So it's THA, like a gangster. Because the People's Court with an E is actually, in fact, a legit TV show.
It is a legit Do they have their own Instagram?
They must, because the handle was taken. So that's why I had to, THA.
The handle was taken. We should see what that Instagram page is, what they're producing out there.
We should.
The gangsta way.
Yeah. These are my posts. These are literally the captions. This is so fun to see right now.
Oh, Google.
Oh, there's me.
In front of a tapestry.
Yes.
Okay, so there's
my Halloween costume.
Okay, the People's Court. So follow that. So it's less about actually what's going on in the court. This is your personal page.
This is my personal page.
Okay, cool.
But I do post about Utah Tech Institute of Politics. So that's the other page that really.
Okay, yeah, and then let's pull that one up. And then I want to see the People's Court. Like, I wonder if they have like old like snips of the TV show. When I got babysat when I was a kid.
Did you have to watch that?
She used to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
I was probably 3 or 4. And I legitimately just remembered the beginning, like the song at the beginning of the show, because I was never watching it. Like, I never watched it, because why would I watch it? But I remember the song.
Why wouldn't you watch it?
I was 3 or 4. You don't
That's crazy. That's crazy that you remember the song. That's a really good memory.
That one, and then...
Is it Utah spelled out or just UT?
It's Utah spelled out.
Okay.
So.
Right there, Utah Tech Institute of Politics on Instagram, right there, the 4th one down, 3rd one down, 3rd one, right there. There it is.
There was our debate, which was a packed house. It was so awesome.
Yeah, the debate was packed.
So grateful that
I was surprised at the turnout for the Senate. So going back to if you want to get involved with local here in Southern Utah, you're like, I don't know where to start, but I know I'm inspired to get involved at some capacity. Is this a good place to start?
I think so, yes.
And then is there like regular meetings where they talk about, what's coming up, maybe paint the picture for like, where do you see this organization going?
Yeah. So every university in the state of Utah actually has an Institute of Politics.
Okay.
Ours is the newest, and it's a startup, but we have high hopes for it. And Washington County is the 5th most populated county in Utah. We are a huge voting bloc. Our issues are very, very different down here from the issues up north in the other populous area. So we want to make sure that we are, talking about Washington County, our issues, getting candidates. Like, it was awesome to have the Republican candidates for the Senate, their first event down here in Washington County.
Yeah.
I think we are looked at as like the stepchild of Utah sometimes. I know a lot of other people feel that way. But we're really trying to change that and let people up on the Wasatch Front know that we're important, our issues matter.
Yeah.
And the Institute of Politics is going to play a key role in that. So there's a lot of opportunities to grow it. All other institutes of politics in the state are named after someone. So I, in college, went to Southern Utah University up in Cedar, and it was the Michael O. Levitt Center for Politics and Public Service. And I was, of course, on the executive council and very involved in that. And so was Henry Walton, who was actually the founder of the Institute of Politics. He works for Utah Tech now. So shout out to Henry, but this is his brainchild.
He kind of is like, hey, we need this. This is needed.
Yeah.
As the university grows up into its status, right?
Yeah.
Into its D1 status, politics is a key, a key function in universities across the country.
Yeah.
Right. So having one established here with its influence coming from inside the community, that's important to you. I know that for sure.
Yes.
And the founders originally, right? So in order to maintain that, right? You have to get that engagement, that involvement. We got to inspire people to jump in there and start taking lead roles, right?
And like the University of Utah, they have the Hinckley Institute of Politics, and they are a powerhouse. That's the goal for us down here, is to be on that level or close to that level, but hopefully with the Southern Utah twist of focusing on our issues, natural resources. You were at the Senate event. I think we were a little underwhelmed with the response on water and some of our land issues down here, because people that are seeking the top leadership positions in our state don't always know what's going on in this corner of the world. So we want to have research opportunities. Yeah.
I mean, I'll just say, just to jump in, I think people decide that they're going to go run for a political office without a whole lot of thought. Like my analysis so far of just this one election, because I've never been as involved in from announcing candidacy through the entirety of the election.
Yeah.
I gotten involved in specific issue topics, especially during college and things like that. But I've never really followed really closely the whole campaign as if it was a single event.
Right.
And a realization occurred that a lot of people come at this from a very haphazard starting point, right? And so we're on the lead end. I think Trent Trent Staggs, he's been campaigning for 5 months already, right? He started essentially when people were when the municipal election started. That's when he started for next year's election, right? And so he's off and running. You could tell that he was ready to go. It seemed like he was the most, maybe not the most prepared, but he was for sure prepared for all the questions that were asked, where a couple of the other candidates that had just kind of announced their candidacy or kind of had just started, it's like they weren't even ready to go yet. And it's interesting to me, for a U.S. Senate seat, we're talking, there's 100 of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
only 2 from our state.
Only 2 from every state, right?
Yeah.
This is a very there's a lot of weight on this office in general. It's a 6-year term. It's the clout that this office holds is heavy. So to think that we could walk into it and be well, I just got not to point out anybody specific, but coming in unprepared, especially on that first conversation, seems negligent. And I don't know why I was surprised, but it happens at the very top seats, but all the way down at the city council levels, that was true of the city council, people that were running.
And I will
primaries.
say, at least those candidates, they came down here, and Speaker Brad Wilson's running as well. He wasn't at the event, but he has come down. I know he's come down and done some touring around and meeting with our local leaders to learn the issue. So they did come down.
Yeah.
We're grateful. And I look at it as an opportunity to educate them, like, keep coming down here, keep coming to Washington County and learning about our issues.
Yeah.
We want that.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to deter them from wanting to come down again, but
it's I'm just saying we're important.
We are.
And they need to know that.
That's true. We got a big population. I mean, St. George is the 5th largest city in the entire state.
Yeah, and we just keep growing and growing. And you're in real estate, and you know that that's not the case in a lot of a lot of markets. Our market's still growing.
Yeah. I mean, across the state in general, we're still moving pretty fast. We've pulled back quite a bit in terms of total amount of transactions happening, but it's in equal measure both an inventory, the amount of people that want to sell their home, or builders that have capital that have want to continue building, right? That new inventory growth. In equal measure, that has come back, as well as the demand coming from inside our own economy, right? Just the inability to move from one place to another, right? You want to upgrade your home, but you don't want to necessarily do it at 3 times the cost, right? Mm-hmm. That's not typically the scenario, right? At least historically looking at it. And so, especially because it's typically payment sensitive, how much you can afford per month, right?
Right.
And that has just been tipped into the stratosphere, right, for a lot of demand. But both of those have pulled back equally. So prices haven't really changed a whole lot. There's been pullback, but really it's just been like this freeze. It's almost everything's getting locked up. But there's some other communities that the markets aren't looking great, and we still have great employment, so those numbers are still good. And so as the economy shifts over into a different into a different gear, Utah as a whole, I think, is still positioned in a good way to keep rolling as the economy goes. So we'll see how things change up.
Yeah.
What is your expectation? What's your guess for who's going to win the Washington City Council election?
I really don't know. I should probably not answer that.
Did you vote already?
I haven't voted yet. No, I got my ballot. I'm going to vote, of course, but I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't want to seem to be like, I don't know, choosing who, or like not
so
choosing, but like predicting who's going to win. I don't know. And I like all of our candidates.
People
I know
love
them.
that, though.
I know.
People love it when you predict stuff.
Well, I'm not going to.
All right.
I'm going to disappoint. I'll keep talking about the Institute of Politics, though, real quick.
Okay,
because
keep going.
I think that we have a lot of opportunity to provide high-quality research like the Hinckley Institute does, but on like water, natural resources, public lands, some really specific Washington County items. And the other thing that I'm so passionate about that I hope that we can do more of is internships. So kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, the poster child of Leadership Dixie Academy. I hope that we can have these students that have come to Utah Tech, stay here in the area, have high-paying jobs, be able to afford to live here, which is a huge barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But stay in our community. And so how we can do that, I think, is helping them get internships locally, and then also with the state legislature out in Washington, D.C. So we've been working on that. We have.
You were telling me they have a hard time getting internships, just specifically from locals here in Southern Utah.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So I'm trying to engage with like our local, like the county, the city, and I just took over the chair in September, so it's a process. But nonprofits, like really where we can match if a student has an interest in having a certain career path, helping them match up with someone in the community to get an internship opportunity.
Cool. I like that.
I know at the Washington County Prosecutors Office, my boss, Eric Clark, he's the county attorney. He's super proactive in that area. So we usually have interns coming that are interested in being a prosecutor.
Yeah.
So that's something I'd like to see more of. And then when I was in college, I interned at the Utah State Legislature actually for Representative Lowry Snow, who up until recently was one of our local representatives.
Right.
Vince, our executive director, has fought really hard to get more slots allocated for Utah Tech. So last year we had 2 slots. Now we have 3. And how that works is the Utah legislature runs its own internship program.
Okay.
And so they're paid internships. You can go up. You are assigned a legislator and you are like their assistant. Like you do everything for them. And it's super fast paced and super awesome. Like the best ever experience for anyone who wants to know more about government.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running bills. They're going to committees, having hearings, and you get to be like right in the action. It's up again at the legislature, so it's 45 days. And we have a hard time getting applicants. So we fought for these spots, and now we're having a hard time getting quality applicants.
Yeah.
And the reason we had to fight for the spots is because BYU, the University of Utah, Weber, USU consume so many of the
and they have population density too, right? Like there's a bigger
pool,
just a bigger pool to draw from. And so,
and they're up there, so they don't have to have their students figure out how. Like when I interned, I was fortunate because I had an aunt that lived actually in Rose Park, so I got to live in Rose Park.
Nice.
Yes, her house was broken into. It was
oh no!
It's a sketchy area, but it was a good experience for me to live there. So
I hate knowing there's sketchy areas. Anytime it's like that's a sketchy area, I'd be like, how do we fix that?
I know.
I'm always like, can we not have a sketchy area?
Yeah.
How do we get a sketchy area? Because we don't have very many sketchy areas. Like, it's funny. Somebody told me that about a specific area here in Southern Utah. I'm not even say where it is because I'm like, I don't really think it's that sketchy.
It probably isn't.
It isn't.
Let's be real.
It isn't.
Like
we don't have any.
County
It's like, how do we
sketchy
keep?
And then like real world sketchy.
Can we keep the sketchiness? Now we've had some crime.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right there on the front end of it, and that worries me. But we're not going to get down a rabbit hole. But keep going with the internships. So, do you think this is just pure curiosity? Do you think it's because the number of students, we just don't have a big enough pool to fill that many seats, or is it just like a lack of getting the word out that this is an opportunity, and maybe it's a execution of the sales pitch, so to speak?
Right. I think it's both.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's I don't want to say that we don't have the students. We definitely have like the students, the talent here. So we did I by chance met this student and was like, oh my gosh, he was telling me about his life. He's interested in going to law school. It was past the application deadline. I was like, you need to apply. Just apply.
And he had no idea about it?
He had no idea about it, no. So, and he's the perfect candidate. So we're going to do more of that, kind of do an internship boot camp, help these students really prepare. How do you do a resume? How do you dress professionally? What are the expectations in a professional, fast-paced environment? So helping them understand that, and then also on the flip side, helping our legislators understand that they can have a high-quality student come from Southern Utah. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is cool. I like this idea.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of different ways of inspiring the kids and getting them involved, but it legitimately just takes organization and volunteers to. I mean, ideally, we'd love to have everybody get paid to do jobs, but I mean, ultimately, we got to kind of find out. We have such a good community of people that have so much life experience. This is what I think is one of the wells of value that we have in Washington County is the retirees that live here.
Yeah,
the amount of knowledge and the amount of experience that is just living the retired life, live down the street. It's vast. It's so vast. I've had so many amazing conversations with people that, they're going to sell their house and, they lived here for 5 or 10 years, but they had the craziest life. Like this one guy, he went to Africa in the 50s. He was showing me pictures of them, in the bush in Africa, and just thinking in my head, to go to Africa in the 50s took a spine that was just iron, the way where he had traveled, but he had all these crazy stories. So thinking of how do we access some of that mentorship to inspire some of these kids? I think there's some value
That's such
to
a good point. I've never thought about the retirees here that way, but yeah,
a lot of them are
really
looking
cool
for something to do as well, and they're I don't know what I should do. I don't know, what could I get excited about?
Achieved the dream of retiring, and just now they live in a beautiful place and get to play golf all the time.
I know some of them.
They did it right.
I feel like the ones that live that life, they have all this energy to do it.
Yeah. They
just played their cards perfectly right, where it's they timed where you have the energy to do the things you want to do and the money to also do them, right? Just like perfectly, but not all of them did time it exactly right. And a lot of them are like, well, I'd like to do something, but I don't want it to be a full-time thing.
Right.
And I don't, golf's boring, once you've done it, every day for 3 years, right? It's not as fun.
Right.
Some people are still obsessed with it, but I think there's a lot of people that are wanting to engage in something, but they just don't know what to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I think
Maybe
that's
they just
great.
want to sit and watch TV.
I'm now inspired to go look into that.
Okay,
See if we can connect
I'm
some
onto something.
students. Yeah, you are. Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to back up because I was saying
I'm sorry, I always do this.
no, I was just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't include my experience living in Rose Park in my sales pitch of why you should go intern at the state legislature. But that is a barrier, right? Is our students don't have, unlike, the University of Utah that's just down the street, they have to figure out a way to live up there. But it's doable, and we work with them, and we want to make it happen because it's such a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So
that's
anyway.
where funding. That's where funding can come
That's
into
where
play.
funding
Yeah.
is needed.
It's
Yeah.
because we could do funding to go to that versus funding to get the people to organize and create these types of events and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's better use of
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
I think that's it's definitely a cause. It's definitely a need in the community, knowing that the train's going to keep moving forward, and staying out of it is really the worst option, because
Right.
when you stay off the table, you're on the menu.
Exactly.
We've come all the way around.
We
nailed that.
Beautiful.
So getting involved, I like this. I'm glad you reached out to me and
Well, thanks for coming to our event.
yeah, you invited me to the event, but and then you told me about this, and I thought, because I want to get involved in this. I'm still just trying to
Yes.
figure out how I fit in.
I want you to get involved. I have so many ideas.
Yeah.
We can keep talking on podcasts, or maybe you can help us with some media stuff. I don't know. Whatever you want to do, Rob, we will take your help
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
and involvement.
let's do it. Let's do it.
It's all about the kids.
I want to have you back on, and I would like your perspective on public safety, like just Washington County as a whole. Like, how are things going? Maybe what you've known to be in the past, looking forward, where we are currently.
Okay.
I was wanting to get St. George Chief of Police in and ask his perspective, but I think
Maybe we can have me. I don't know. I have connections, but Eric Clark, county attorney, or our county sheriff, who is wonderful as well.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about him too. Yeah,
Sheriff Brooksby. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I think it's important that we keep that conversation. That should be like at least on this show, for what its purpose is to help educate the community on what's going on. That's something that has got to be close by.
Let's do it.
I wanna do that. But anything else? What do you want to leave everybody with?
No, just we're here, the Institute of Politics, Utah Tech University. We're trying to grow. We're here to serve the community and the students. So reach out with ideas.
If you have a student, if you know a student, or if you
get involved,
have a niece or nephew, or the kid down the street where you're like, oh, that kid's really sharp. He should do this.
Yeah. We do a pizza and politics.
Oh yeah, pizza and politics.
Bi-monthly. So students can come and they get free pizza. And they get to...
What's the age? Sorry, I didn't ask. What's the age of the internship? Like, how old? Like, what's
There's not an age.
I know,
Just
but
gotta be a student.
what's typically the... It's just high school? Like, could you be...
No, it's a college.
It's college.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like it wouldn't a senior in high school is what getting into it. Is there like a cutoff? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, a senior in high school probably wouldn't work just because you have to be up. I mean, if you want to intern locally, I'm down to help you 100%. If you're talking about the internship up in the state legislature, you'd have to miss some school. I don't know.
Right.
If you're
okay.
interested, reach out. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
That makes sense.
If you're
I don't know what I
older,
was
a
thinking.
non-traditional student, you still apply. Absolutely.
For whatever reason, I was like, well, maybe the high school kids. I don't know. Clearly, maybe that makes more sense.
Okay.
If you know a kid locally, that this job would fit for. What is there a new round of deadlines? Like, what is that? Maybe
so
for the next session.
I think for this session, get your applications in really quick.
Okay.
Go to the Instagram page and message. But that's coming up in January. And then we do have federal internships out in Washington, D.C. that will have its own deadline. So I'll have to keep you updated on that.
That'll be cool. That'll be cool. So that's coming up. So if you're listening, let's get the word out. Let's get some good candidates from Southern Utah out there.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. See you later.
See ya.